Hello, I'm James,
Hi, I'm Jimmy,
and welcome to A Job Done Well.
the podcast that helps you improve your performance and enjoyment at work.
Good afternoon, how are you doing?
Afternoon, James. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous, thank you for asking. I would have thought that was self-evident just by looking at me, but
Glowing. You're glowing.
Glowing, is that the word? Yeah, in a middle-aged man sort of way. So, what is today's episode about then?
Well, today we are doing something different. We are having a look back. We've had 100 conversations now.
100, is that all?
Well, it feels like
a whole lot
1,000.
more.
We've done 100 episodes looking back about some of the challenges facing managers, and the same tensions keep coming up. Different industries, different personalities, different organizations, the same underlying patterns come up. So this isn't a highlights episode. It is our attempt to really say, if you are a manager, here's what we think you're really dealing with. So some of it might be a bit uncomfortable. That's where we are.
Fabulous, sounds a bit deep.
It will be, James. What as deep as two shallow people like you and me ever get.
Always used to make me laugh. Used to have deep dives. And I used to think, a deep dive, you'd be bloody lucky if we went snorkeling.
Exactly. Anyhow, first thing, James.
Go on, the first point I think is the most important point, which is the system that you're working in matters much more than you think.
I think we should explain just briefly.
Is that not good enough? Is that what you're saying?
No, but I think we have to. We should explain the system.
Go on, then the system. So what do I mean by the system? So the system for me is the whole environment you're working in. So you've got processes and you've got infrastructure, but you've also got policies and you've got rules and you've got incentives and you've got the way in which people do things and you've got your HR policies and. But all of that stuff together has a massive impact on the way your organization works and the stuff that you can do. And much more so than people think. People don't stand back and look at that in the whole.
Well, this is one of those points where my view has really sharpened up over these 100 episodes that we've done. So originally, I would have argued with you that actually people are more important than the system, that you can overcome a badly designed system by the sheer brilliance of people. And as we've gone on, I think that actually you're probably right. People feel that they are.
Hang on. Can we say that again?
It's being recorded, so you can play it back on loop to yourself. I know what you like.
Well, I think you're probably right. Yeah, go on.
It's a bit like your mate Gemini. But I guess the point is, people often feel like they're failing, no matter how hard they work and how talented they are, because they're working in a badly designed system, and it makes you feel incompetent. And I think that actually that system does have a massive impact. And I think I was probably overestimating the amount that people could overcome. And so I think people look at their own failings when actually it's the system that's causing it.
Yeah. And a lot of it, and I hate to come back to it, but a lot of it is down to the HR incentives and policies and all of that people put in place. So a couple that struck out for me was, so you told the story about selling insurance on loans.
Yes, check out our episode on reward and recognition. But yeah, it was the fact that the system, the way we were incentivizing people to behave, wasn't giving us the outcome that we wanted. And actually, the managers running those teams felt like they were trying really hard and doing a good job, but they still weren't getting the results. The reason they weren't getting results is because the system we'd set up incentivized people to do the wrong things.
Yeah, and I was only focus on the wrong thing. One of my other favorites was Bernie Smith, who talked about, he gave the example of, you can do a prediction of life. You tell how long people are likely to live by the amount of time that they spend or they are able to stand on one foot.
Yes.
Of course, the way corporations would look at that is they start practicing standing on one dirty foot. It's pointless, right? So getting your inputs and your outputs and all of that wrong and putting your incentives around it just messes things up.
Are you telling me, James, you've not practiced standing on one foot?
So there's number one. The system matters more than you think. What's number two? Yeah.
The other common thing, and again, going into these episodes, I wouldn't have believed this, but it's just become more and more important and apparent to me. But everyone talks about purpose, and we see hardly any organizations doing this particularly well. And it isn't just a bit of corporate wallpaper. It is actually a key. It's the reason why you're here as an organization. It's the reason why your people work for you. But it's implicit. It's somewhere in a deck somewhere. It's not a living and breathing thing, is it?
Well, but interesting. I think we talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of colour and cuffs don't match up. So we'll say the purpose of this organisation is to provide world-class customer service or whatever hell it might be. Whereas really the purpose of this organisation is to make a quick buck. And customers can see it, employees can see it, but it just creates conflict. So being really clear about what your purpose is and then following through on it, I think is all important. A couple of organisations over time that we've given a good drubbing about this. Well, John said in a couple of episodes ago, gave the NHS a bit of a drubbing about how they're prioritising A&E waiting times. That became their purpose, rather than looking at what patients actually needed. Horizon scandal, we talked about that. There's another one. And one, just to emphasise how important it is, a quick story for you. We jump up and down, we say, oh, the NHS is broken, yada, yada, yada. But it really doesn't have to be that way. There's a hospital or a chain of hospitals in India called the Aravind Eye Hospitals. And so I've discussed this before, but what they decided they wanted to do was they wanted to eradicate needless blindness. And what this was in India was really getting rid of cataracts. Some statistics for you, I bet you can hardly wait. But in 2009, the Aravind Eye Hospital treated 2.75 million patients, half of them for free. It exceeded the care benchmark of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists. It did all of this and it turned a profit. So my point being, if you get really cute on what your purpose is, you can achieve some outstanding things. But most organisations are just a bit conflicted, which of course ties back to our point about systems.
Yeah. But I think on a more micro level, if you think back, our very first episode was on purpose, and who knew we covered the most important thing on the first episode. But if you're running a team, if you ask your team, what are they here for? Do they all give you the same answer? Because one of the stories that I told in that first episode was when I was managing a sales team, and we grandly figured out, no shit, Sherlock, but we were there to make more sales. And I thought it was a completely pointless exercise to state that out loud. Whereas actually it drove a whole load of action, and you'd hear people talking about as you walked around the operation. Remember we discussed, does this help us make more sales? So just that clarity, sometimes of stating what you might think is the bleeding obvious, that stops the amount of politics and anxiety and agendas and stuff like that, because it enables people to focus in on what's important. So if you're running an organization or a team, I think this is massively applicable.
Oh yeah, well, but I think, with the benefit of hindsight, making more sales was maybe not the greatest purpose you could have chosen for the organisation.
Well, it wasn't, seeing as we were selling PPI at the time.
Yeah, so we got a bit scandalous, but it shows how powerful it was to the organisation to get the purpose right.
Yeah, and like I say, it's important in understanding what your purpose is and how you incentivize that purpose, because you are going to get what you lay out. You just need to be sure that's what you really want.
Right then, so systems and purpose, what have we got next then?
Well, next is your boss actually matters more to you than the company you work for. Now, people choose their brand. I want to work for this company or that company. But actually, once you've walked past that logo in the foyer, it's your boss that casts the shadow on your day positively or negatively. So make sure you choose your boss as carefully as you choose the brand that you want to work for.
There is a little bit of research into this as well. There's a chap called Julian Birkinshaw, or I can't remember, he's a professor or something somewhere. But he did an awful lot of work looking at what made a good boss and what made a bad boss.
Oh yeah, what did he say?
Yeah, so good bosses provides clear goals, a consistent path forward. They don't flip-flop about. And if they do change, they'll justify that change logically. So everybody knows what they're doing and why. There's no confusion. So that's the first thing. Comes back to our point about purpose, really.
Yeah.
And also, Alana Friedman talked a lot about this when she was talking about high-performing teams. So there's the first thing, direction. The second thing, just as important, is space, right? So a good boss grants autonomy. Yeah, they let you figure out what you want to do, and they let you get on with it. So you don't like having a boss who's on your back all the time. But then the final thing is, as we talked about, is a good boss provides support. He helps you get the resources you need. Yeah. Provides guidance when you need it, and he shields you when you need it.
Yeah.
So those are the three elements of a good boss. Things to look out for. Does this person provide direction, space, and support?
There's people listening to this podcast now thinking, why didn't these two discover this research when they were actually managing people?
Seriously, if you think back to the bad bosses you've had, then they're never bloody clear what they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
They never backed you up. Yeah, and they're always on your flipping back.
And I can correlate the enjoyment and performance that I've had at work with whether I've had a good boss or a bad boss. I think it's all about me, and no doubt it is, but in fact, there is a really strong correlation for me throughout my career.
And of course, at the risk of banging home the point too strongly, if you are somebody's boss, how good a boss are you?
Yeah. Think on.
Deep.
The flip side of this is...
It's like it's scripted.
Yeah. The flip side is that you've got to remember, and this is something that really has come home to us over this time, you've got to remember your employer is not a person. They're not a real person. They cannot love you back no matter how much you love them. They are a legal structure, an entity. They are not a real person that you have a relationship with.
Right. And the point B is really bad to fall in love with your employer because, as you say, they are a legal entity and there will be no love lost when it comes back the other way. Right?
Yeah. And ultimately, I know this is a horrible take, but to an organization, you are a resource, you are a number. And so therefore, when stuff happens to you in that organization, I don't know, examples would be redundancy. Redundancy isn't a betrayal. You pass over promotions. It's not just rejection. Restructuring, it's not necessarily personal. All these things that are functions of a company running are things that we often take really to heart. And they are often functional processes that occur in an organization. And so you can take them really hard because you take them really personally because this organization that I love has betrayed me. They're not a real person.
Although your boss might be a twat.
That could be the case. And so you can combine the last two. Our podcast is all about helping people, teams and organizations perform better and enjoy work more.
And I go as far as saying that we believe that everyone and every team has the potential to transform their performance by optimizing what they currently do.
So if you'd like to discuss how we can help you transform your performance, then get in touch or maybe check out our website. We also do speaking events, mentoring and advice work as well.
So what's the key point here then?
So I think the thing for me is when I realized that the organization I was working for wasn't disappointed in me, it was making a commercial decision about me and my role and my future, I found it quite liberating. It felt a lot less personal and helped me move on with my career and my life.
Yeah, so if you can detach your ego from the organization, easy said, if you can do it, you'll be in a better place.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't care, but just get some balance in it.
Yeah. Which leads us on, I think, to our next points, which is you need to be intentional about your career. Don't bob along. Take hold of your career because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah. And I think often what we've found in our discussions, some of the subjects that we've talked about around managing your career, managing upwards, networking, they've been amongst our most popular subjects. And a lot of it is because sometimes I think we are guilty of outsourcing the management of our career. We just go with the flow. It's what the organization wants from me. I'll do a good job and then I'll get on. And life's just not that simple, unfortunately.
As there's a quote, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something along the lines of, if you don't manage your own career, somebody will start managing it for you.
Yeah.
And they won't be doing it to your best interests.
No. And we talked about that not so long ago. And I was sharing with you, one of our old bosses said to me that I was just letting him make decisions on whether I got promoted and what job I did. And he was doing it from his perspective, what suited him, what was in his best interest. And I was leaving it into the lap of the gods if I thought that he was thinking about what was best for me, because he wasn't. He was thinking about what was best for him, what was best for the organization. You might be lucky and those things might overlap, but quite often they don't. And don't outsource your career to somebody else.
And so don't forget the immortal words of Baz Luhrmann, wear sunscreen. Nobody else is going to put it on for you.
Did you know, James, that they've updated that song for today's era? Yeah.
Yeah. And has it got any words of wisdom?
Basically, avoid social media.
So where does that take us? Maybe to our final point.
Which is?
In the end, it's all about people.
So basically,
which kind of brings us well.
Yeah, we've gone on an arc, James, to say we thought that you were right because it's all about the systems, and now we're getting to that. Over the 100 episodes, we're reflecting back on it, and actually, one of the undeniable truths it is all about people. Yes, systems matter and they shape the behavior, but the system is fundamentally made up of humans.
Yeah, you can't take the man out in a machine. The two things are totally interlinked.
Yeah.
Because, people shape systems. The systems are made of human. Every incentive lands in the nervous system.
Yeah.
You just go round and round.
Every meeting is emotional. It's not all rational. If you're managing people, you're not just managing resources. People are a whole bundle of needs, fears, ambitions, egos, insecurities, identity, including your own impacts that.
You've got to think about the human and the machine. You can't divorce the two. And lots of management practice are very resource hungry and mechanistic, which comes back to my pet hate, HR. Yeah. Which, you're thinking about it, if you change the name of human resources to human insecurities, do you think they behave differently?
James, you've got a real thing about HR. We worked with some great HR people in the past. So we listen to this thinking, James always hated us. And that's not true.
Give that CIPD a good stabbing. But there's the question. What are the implications of your systems on your people? How will they respond? And don't be too surprised.
And I think one of the impacts both on the human side and the system side, these are quite complex things. Your work system is complex, and you're multiplying that by the humans you put in it. And in today's day and age, all we're interested in is simple solutions, whether it's the bosses at the top of the organization, the shareholders, the media, whatever it is. Everything is designed to what's the quick, easy, simple solution. And when you've got that complexity, that ain't always going to be the case, is it?
Oh, rarely is. So let's summarize that then. Go on then. So what are your words of wisdom? 100 episodes in.
So 100 episodes, there are certain truths that I think if you had asked us before we did any of these episodes, I think we would have said some of these are the case. But I think our opinions over 100 episodes have been sharpened up. Because of that complexity, it's not about controlling everything. It's about navigating the system and navigating the tensions and the complex of dealing with a bunch of humans.
Fundamentally, it's about being intentional about your choices.
Yeah. And as the Prayer of Serenity says, James.
Where did you find out about the Prayer of Serenity?
They use it at Alcoholics Anonymous. Not that I have a drinking problem.
Go on. So what does the Prayer of Serenity say?
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
And on that note of wisdom, I think we should call it quits. Thank you for listening to the first 100 episodes.
On to the next 100.
That's a nice thought. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
We cover a whole host of topics on this podcast,
from purpose to corporate jargon,
but always focused on one thing, getting the job done well.
Easier said than done. So if you've got unhappy customers or employees, bosses or regulators breathing down your neck,
if your backlogs are out of control and your costs are spiraling, and that big IT transformation project that you've been promised just keeps failing to deliver,
we can help. If you need to improve your performance, your team's performance, or your organisation's, get in touch at jimmy@ajobdonewell.com
or james@ajobdonewell.com.